After years of dreaming to be a solo indie game developer, I recently decided to quit trying to make a career out of game dev. People misunderstand what making games is actually like because the guys who get the most attention are the rare outliers. So I want to shed light on the truth about game dev as a career, why it's much harder than you think if you're trying to pursue it as a dream, but also offer some good news to help you get to where you really want to be. Because there isn't just one path to creative self-expression that you can make a living or a side income off of. There are other options besides just spend 3 years on a game and launch on Steam. So where did this all start? Well, in my case, I was working on a huge overscope game despite knowing that I should keep my scope small. When I posted my I quit video, a few people told me, well, there's your problem, you were making an open world RPG. And it was doomed to fail. And those people were right. And deep down, I knew it from the start. But it was what I really wanted to do at the time. And that is generally the norm. It's not like I'm the only schmuck who tried to make a big game. So if you feel like you want to make a big game even though all the advice out there tells you to make a small game, believe me, you're not alone. The thing is, it was actually going surprisingly well. After coming home from work, I would pretty soon open up Unity and work on the game. There was so much to do, but I was making good, consistent progress. I wasn't losing motivation or anything at the time. It was totally doable. I was getting all the features into the game. Why should I follow my own advice and make small games if I was totally on track almost the entire time? The problem was game dev and YouTube was pretty much all I was doing. I sometimes forced myself to take a day trip to Calgary or go check out the Northern Lights or go to the zoo or something, but those were rare events. For the most part, I was just cooped up in my room working. I met some great people out in Saskatoon, but we very rarely hung out. I wasn't really reading anything either. I tried here and there, but usually only read a page or two before bed. This is bad because reading is really good for you. When's the last time you read a book, like a good fantasy novel? Well, the thing I've switched out from game dev into is actually writing, and I'm getting ready to launch a Kickstarter campaign for my novella, a heist-style thriller to do the impossible, to slay a dragon in a world where dragons rule. It's a pretty short book, so it's perfect if you want to get back into reading, and everyone who's read it has absolutely loved it. So if you're in the United States or Canada, go follow the Kickstarter by clicking notify me on launch. It's the best way to support the channel since I'm not really taking sponsors anymore and don't really want to sell game dev courses since I'm not doing game dev anymore, and I'm obviously not making games anymore either. Also, you're definitely going to love the story, so there's that too. So does game dev have to take up so much of your time, or was I just doing it too obsessively? Well, it boils down to the scope of the game. But didn't I just say that I knew my scope was too big? The real problem, I think, is just that if you want to do game dev, which is hard, what is the point of making games you don't care about? You might as well invest that difficulty in the game you want to make. Otherwise, why not keep your comfortable but boring job? What I'm getting at here is that there are essentially two types of successful game developers. The crazy ones that everybody wants to be, and the reasonable, boring ones. Everybody wants to make these beautiful games that you see on YouTube because it's inspiring and they're making their dream games and they're living proof that it is possible. But if you've ever watched game developers on stream, you know they can spend hours just perfecting one tiny little detail. Now imagine doing that for every single aspect of your game and everything in it. You can't just make a low detail indie version of an RPG. You have to make an RPG. You still have to spend an hour rotating the barrel next to the village house to make it perfect. It's no wonder that if you have a full-time job, doing this would eat up 100% of your spare time. Don't get me wrong, I really admire these guys for what they do, but I believe that for most of us who aren't that talented in all these different fields, we should just pick something to master and get really good at instead of trying to be a creative genius in 100 different skills. What does it take to be like these guys? What does it take to make your dream game? It takes hours upon hours of polishing. It takes turning game dev into a sloggy business. It takes years upon years that will not result in good financial return even if your game somehow by some miracle is actually high quality, not just in your mind but in reality, to the point where it makes $100,000. Because even if you actually get there, $100,000 isn't worth 5 years of work. Okay, sorry to be so blunt, but I do want to offer some good news. If these are the types of games that you want to make, if you have a world in your mind that you want to present, and if you want to fill this world with stories and watch it all come to life, there's a much easier way to do this than launching games on Steam and you still get to make money. Many years ago when I told Chris Sukowski that this is what I wanted to do, he suggested something to me that I kind of shrugged off at the time. He told me to make Skyrim mods. And he was right. My objections at the time were, I can't make money off mods and Creation Club sounds like it sucks, and more fundamentally, Skyrim is someone else's game. I want to do all the back-end stuff and make it all myself. Well, after having done that already, I can tell you, yeah, it's cool to make your own combat mechanics and enemy AI, but now that I have the infrastructure, I kind of rather just use Skyrim's anyway, even though Skyrim isn't any kind of masterpiece of game design by any means. Keep in mind, Skyrim mods get a lot of traction by default, like for free. I uploaded an unfinished proof of concept mod a while back, and it got a lot of comments and interest, whereas posting about my own games on social media or YouTube feels like a Sisyphean task. If I actually kept doing this and attached a Patreon and made a few more mods and the quests were all high quality, well written, and creative, I'm sure people would appreciate that. You can get a pretty reasonable side hustle doing it this way, and you can always move from modding to game dev later once you've developed the audience like the creator of The Forgotten City did. What about the other kind of game dev? If you're really set on selling your own games on Steam, I think your best bet is to do what the reasonable, sensible people with really boring success stories did. A while ago there was a GDC talk from a guy whose career is literally just launching a reskinned match 3 game over and over again. On the flip side, there's Xalavir, who makes games in an extremely short time span, which means he doesn't need to make that much money on each game, and he can also experiment a lot more. This is the key to any kind of success. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you make a game and spend years on it and it flops, that dream will come crashing down hard, and while you might learn a lot, that time could have been spent on something much more valuable than a very, very expensive mistake. So if you want to take this route and still make games, my proposition to you is the same as what I advised people in my past videos. Make games in no more than 3 months, make them small, tight, and polished. This is exactly what I'm doing with books. I'm going to make like 3 or 4 books a year if this goes well. If you want to make open world games, make extraction shooters. They can be sci-fi or fantasy or whatever else. Focus on systems and procedural generation as opposed to linear content. Consider making simulators where you just go super deep into one job, like Farming Simulator. You can even cheat and create Fantasy Chosen One Simulator or Space Marine Simulator and just get away with making your dream game anyway, with a slightly adjusted design heuristic. There's also something to be said about what life is really about. I'm gonna get a little philosophical here, but I think rather than pursuing dreams and stubbornly focusing on one project, it's more valuable for a man to be generous and to serve others, and I think it makes you feel a lot better and a lot more fulfilled. Don't shut yourself up in your room because you're on the grind set. Whatever you do, make sure you spend time with your family and friends and do something for your community. Pray to God, get married. Seriously, who cares about pursuing your dreams if life is short and at the gates of heaven you don't really get to brag about the game you made or how much money you earned? In any case, I hope you're able to find a career that brings you fulfillment, that's in line with your talents, and that enables you to live a holistic and meaningful life. Whether that's in game dev, something more mundane, or something creative in a different field like writing. And if my channel has been useful to you in any way, please check out that Kickstarter for my book and click the notify me on launch button. It supports the channel, and of course, you'll love the book. Thanks so much for watching. All the best to you in the new year, and God bless.